What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Jonald, and we've moved. Ooh, I mean, the normal desk is right there, like the TV in the background is a fireplace, because fire, 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 fire. Okay, anyway, I'm moving on. So today I'm going to do something fun where I'm going back to the first planet that I ever wrote a book on. I mean, not a book on, a one-off on. Canonically based on the playlist. Technically, this was like my third or fourth. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It was my third actually, because I wrote Follow the Rules and anyway. So going back to Melara, great time. 10 out of 10. I love this. This is part of an idea of me fleshing out the magic system, and more importantly, while this is that's right. Ow! It's Wednesday, and you know what that means? It's time for a one-off. Yeah, it's okay. We'll just get into that. I threw myself off with the fire thing. So beautiful. Anyway, this week is specifically going to be part 1. I know next week will be a part 2. I might do some more. I just wanted to do this one in 2 parts. I thought it would be entertaining. Is it technically a one-off? No, but again, it's about me doing it because I want to, so if you really have issues, I'll leave them in the comments. Type some angry comments. Angry, angry, angry. Anyway, let's get into the one-off.
Battlestaff. Written by Jonathan Howe. Read for you by Daniel Howe. Henry ran out into the garden in excitement, brand new guitar in hand. "Floaty, come look at what Mom got me," he shouted. A rustle of wind blew through the leaves, and the faintest shift in color, outlining a shape, became evident to Henry. "Hi, Floaty," he said to the spirit. "Look!" Henry held out the guitar. It was small, sized for a child, but it had 6 good strings and a solid acoustic body, and even a hookup for plugging into an amp. The spirit swirled around Henry in delight. The boy sat cross-legged in the grass of the garden. He set the guitar into the position he'd practiced, and gingerly plucked a string. Henry wasn't old enough to care about the out-of-tune noise the string made when plucked. He only squealed in delight. Henry began to play a song all of his own, with Floaty the Spirit dancing along. 10 years later, Henry walked nervously up to the trial grounds, his guitar in hand. It was a far cry from his first guitar, the one he'd gotten as a 9th birthday present. This guitar was made to be used in team battles. It had a Taikat antenna for sending sound and a sturdy body that could take a few hits from weapons. Float matched Henry's pace, drifting in the air next to him. The spirit made a low humming noise only Henry understood. "Yeah, it's gonna be fine," Henry acknowledged. "I'm just a little nervous is all." Float hummed again. "Hey, there have been people playing just as long as I have. Also some who haven't, but are still better than me." As if to prove his point, Henry spotted the group of bards readying their instruments. He moved to join them, walking specifically towards the trial organizer. Henry got his tags, one for bard and one for battle-axe, then sat down and began to prepare his guitar. Float hummed, sounding annoyed. "It's just a fallback," Henry explained. "If I don't get chosen for bard, I could still get picked for battle-axe. Honestly, I just want to be on a team." Henry glanced around the stadium. What would normally be filled with thousands of spectators was instead half filled with Battlestaff teams and scouts. "Some pretty big names," Henry noted. Float hummed in agreement. Henry couldn't see them, but he assumed some of the teams, their bards specifically, had spirits floating around them, like Float. "See anyone to look out for?" Henry asked, pulling his attention from the spectators to the other hopefuls. He scanned the competition, none of them standing out. Float buzzed and occupied Henry's same space. The act allowed Float a modicum of control, which the spirit used to point Henry's gaze at one man. "Doesn't seem like much, but I'll trust you," Henry said. Float saw the world differently than Henry, which could be helpful, but could also mess things up. In this case, Henry didn't want to risk trusting himself. The man in question was a tall, skinny guy with long, dark brown hair and pasty white skin. He also had a Taikat guitar, and was practicing scales. His fingers moved across the fretboard with ease. "Does he have any spirits?" Henry asked. Float pulled away and made a crackle. "So you're not sure." Based on his ability, the man could probably have a whole flurry of spirits surrounding him. Henry looked away and focused on warming up. 30 minutes later, Henry was set with a small squadron and prepared to fight. They'd been assigned randomly, but after the brief instructions, Henry had determined they were a good bunch. Float hummed happily alongside him. "Is Group B prepared?" a moderator asked them. Everyone nodded, taking their positions at the gate. A horn sounded and a gate flung wide. Their small band charged into the arena, weapons at the ready. Henry ran in and took a spot to the side, pulled his guitar into a ready stance. Their captain hadn't signaled, so Henry waited, fingers heavy with tension. They stood at the ready, looking around the sandy floor. When a particularly large mound began to move, Henry got the signal to play. Despite this, he waited. A moment more, he thought, waiting for the signal from Float. The captain called again, the claws of the monster becoming visible, as well as one of the large tails. Just a bit, Henry thought. Float vibrated in the air. Doom, 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 doom. Henry began the song as the final bits of sand slid off the spirax. The large arachnid beast cried out, snapping its claws menacingly. Henry continued the song, ignoring the small pit of fear the creature formed in his stomach. Doom, 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 doom. It launched out a claw, trying to grab their shielder. The snap of the claw as it missed timed up with the beat of Henry's playing. Float gave him a tempo to follow, and Henry played. As the song began to pick up, so did the battle. Henry looked around, scanning the area for more spirits. Float was always visible to him, but as the music played, more would show themselves and affect the world. 16, Henry counted in his mind. They were all pretty basic, just normal spirits that gave classic strength enhancements. That wasn't Henry's fault, but the fault of the song. It was given to the bards as a required piece and was truly generic. Still, Henry gave it his best. He watched the fighters, making sure his playing matched the energy of their movements. When the sword fighter came in with hard strokes, he riffed harder. When the shielder stopped a tail from stabbing the captain, Henry slapped the strings in an abrupt stop. Finally, when the archer had an opening to shoot the beast in the eye, Henry went off script. Float buzzed, alerting Henry. "The arrow's going to be caught," the buzz meant. Henry was finishing a chorus, perfectly timed to go off book. When the archer released, Henry made the melody go wild. Everyone looked to him, almost missing the flight. As the spirax stretched out a claw to grab the arrow, a blue spirit stopped the bolt in air first. The claw snapped shut before it. Next, guided by Henry's music, the spirit jettisoned the arrow through the tough carapace of the claw and into the spirax's eye at lightning speeds. Henry played to reflect this, and the team took advantage of the opening. Moments later, their sword fighter had swung his sword through the spirax's head, felling the beast. The final note faded, and everything stood still. Henry looked up, checking for the spectators' reactions. They applauded. It was slow at first, but grew to a more wild, raucous applause by the end. He beamed, hoping it had been enough. The blue spirit was unusual, Henry thought to Float. The spirit hummed. "I didn't think a mid-level Taikashin would be around at all." Float buzzed angrily. "Except you, of course." For the next 2 hours, Henry played as a backing for the group. Each time they beat whatever opponent, and each time Henry summoned at least one mid-level Taikashin spirit. By his final match as a bard, the team begun to expect it. They followed his lead, allowing Henry's songs to lead the battle. "What do you think for this last bout?" the captain asked. Henry pondered. It was Bard's choice, a moment he wasn't certain about. "Well," he hesitated. "I think we should stick to a song from the list. I know them all by heart."
"I disagree," their sword fighter said. "Everyone will pick from the list and play it safe. We're allowed to do any song we want, correct? Henry has to know something good. How about Survive?"
Henry looked away sheepishly. He knew of the song mentioned, but he couldn't play it. See, the thing is, he tried explaining, I learned all the songs on the list to be ready for today, but I don't know any more songs in our language. Everyone raised their eyebrows at him. Henry blushed. I like Hinoi's music. Surely you know at least one song we could use. Anything not on the list. Henry shook his head while Float buzzed. Without you guys knowing the song, the chances of it going well are low. I'd heavily advise against it. Play a bit from the song you like, the Shielder said. Then we'll judge. Henry took a deep breath and thought for a way out. He really didn't want to fail because his group was too ambitious. A song came to mind, one with a strong melody but complex harmonies and rhythm. I think I'll scare them off with this, Henry thought to Float. It wasn't a guarantee the spirit could hear his thoughts, but Float often seemed to understand. As Henry stood to play, he couldn't help himself. Along with the first strum of the guitar, he sang along to the song. Henry didn't speak Hinoise, but he knew enough to sing along with most of his music. Henry let loose, giving a performance to truly showcase the song. He wanted them to understand just how alien the music was. It was a bad idea. Float hummed tentatively. Something didn't seem right. Henry ignored it, playing then singing with all his heart. When the song came to its end, however, he noticed Float's issue. The team had begun dancing, swaying, or moving to the music.
That's the song,
the sword fighter said. Agreed, the Shielder responded. Henry looked to the captain nervously. I'm not certain about this, he explained. The captain looked thoughtful. If you play like you just did, he said slowly, I think we can make it work. Are you willing to trust us? Henry played the song. He sang and played his heart out. Even still, the fight was rough. The team didn't know the song well, and Henry's playing could only make up for so much. That being said, the mechanical dummies that made up the opposing team still went down. Henry's team still won. He'd even seen a flash of a high-level Takashin once. It was a successful battle. I just feel it could have gone better, he thought to Float. The spirit hummed amiably. I don't have time to be anxious. Henry changed his tag and put his guitar away. The team was celebrating their victory, but Henry had to go be reassigned, this time as a battle axe. The lanky pale bard was named Craig. Float was right to be on the lookout. He and Henry were in the same squad for the second part. He was able to summon 2 mid-level Takashins in the first battle. As the hour progressed, Henry was able to put his worries aside and enjoy himself more. With the stress of being bard out of the way, he focused on fighting well. More than that, he worked to mesh himself with Craig's music. The result was severely effective. By the final fight, the moderators needed to up the challenge level of the fight for it to be a show. Should have made it harder, Henry noted, as his flaming axe lopped off the heads of 3 dummy opponents with one stroke. He pulled back, matching Craig's playing as a mace wielder took his place and bashed in another. A minute later, as Henry delivered the final blow, a high-level Takashin appeared, filling his axe with glowing power. The shockwave from the weapon meeting the dummy caused anything made out of the same material to evaporate into dust. Henry stood in awe while the final note faded. Then the crowd burst into roaring chaos. If only one of us gets to be a bard, Henry thought, it's gonna be Craig. In that moment, he couldn't be upset. That final attack was insane. Craig was the only bard to be scouted. As the announcer said Craig's name, Henry's heart fell. He almost missed the announcer's next line. Also scouted by last Wednesday, the man said, the only battle axe of the year, Henry Albright. People cheered, and Henry tried to look happy. He walked to the stage, his legs numb. He shook the hand of the captain of the last Wednesday and moved off with him and Craig. It's a good team, Henry thought to Float. The spirit crackled, a melancholy sound. I'll ask when this is all over. You would have been a good choice for bard, the team scout said. But Craig was just better. I know it's hard, but if you want to join the major leagues, this is the way to do it. No other teams needed a bard, Henry said. He stopped abruptly, understanding the potential insult. The scout smiled sadly, shaking his head. Not enough to pick you. That being said, we'd love to have you as a backup bard. You aren't unskilled in that department, and we shouldn't let that go to waste. He stood from the table and pushed the contract towards Henry. It's a hard world, Battlestaff. If you want a foot in the door, I'm giving you a shot. Henry met the man's eyes. He looked truly apologetic, but also firm. This is your best offer, the look said. You have a day to think about it, but we need to know soon. Henry glanced to Float, who did a twirl. The scout glanced in Float's direction. I think I've decided, Henry said. He steeled his emotions and signed on the line. He joined last Wednesday as a battle axe.
And we're back. Okay. Yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that, and more importantly, I hope you come back next week. Tell your friends. Get them hooked. Like my writing is just some kind of drug where you go, hey, you gotta try this. And they're like, Mister, why are you assaulting me in a back alley to get me to try a YouTube channel? And then you go, well, because it's pretty good. It's cotton candy flavored. Yeah, tell them my YouTube channel is cotton candy flavored, because that worked for vape, so it will work for my YouTube channel. Jokes aside, next week is going to be a continuation of Henry's story. It's going to be fun. I'm really excited. And also, points to anyone if they can guess some of the songs I'm using it, because like when I'm writing these, I do have songs in my head for what they're playing, but like I can't put the songs in because A, that gets into a whole thing about, well, if the planet exists and it's not our planet, how would they have the same songs? Don't worry, I know. And B, more importantly, copyright. Copyright is the big issue. So yeah, with that, I think I'm gonna stop making my wife hold the camera. She's tired. Her arms are shaking. She's crying and sobbing. It's just painful to watch. I'm joking. She's fine. But she has other things to do than watch me film an outro. So anyway, goodbye.